Join us at the Northern California Renaissance Fair, weekends at Casa de Fruta, now through October 19th. Calling all woodland creatures, fairies, and toadstools this weekend as we celebrate cottagecore. Explore the artisans' marketplace filled with unique handcrafted wares. Enjoy delicious food, non-stop entertainment, and cheer on your favorite night at the Royal Joust. Kids 12 and under are free. Go to NorCalRenFair.com for tickets. Huzzah!
But as I often told my UK friends during the 20th century, it's really easier to have no race problems when you have only one race, which was the case for a long time in the UK. And not only was it white, it was pasty white. If I'm in the UK, I'm like a tanning guy. Norman Chad. Norman Chad. Welcome to Gambling Mad with Norman Chad. I am Norman Chad. Coming up on the program today, I am shocked to discover that athletes are gambling. I am shocked to discover that all the richest men own all the big media. And I am shocked to discover that people are still moving to Los Angeles. Gambling Mad, as always, brought to you by Fritos, picked fresh off of Central California trees every morning, delivered directly to your local retailer every afternoon. And by the refreshing taste of Fresca. Fritos and Fresca, it's a meal. America is on the brink. The brink! An apocalyptic darkness is hovering over God's green earth from sea to shining sea. We are on the brink. Let's take a look at our national map to get more details on this. America on the brink. Everywhere in our lower 48, dark, ominous clouds looming over our democracy. It is dark here, and there. And then just last week, I went to Orlando, Florida, and I sat next to two guys in a bar who were discussing a labor union. Communists! The only silver lining, the only break in the clouds is in Phoenix, Arizona, where the sun shines 24/7. Even when the sun goes down, it comes right back up. Currently in Phoenix, 117 degrees as I speak. Traffic and weather on the fives all weekend. Let's throw it back to the desk. In gambling news, 3 athletes were betting on their own games and have been disciplined. Does this sound familiar? I could just write the equivalent of a form letter talking about athletes who gamble and just change the names every week. It would save me time. Because this ain't going away, and this is only going to get worse. So, 3 men's basketball players have been permanently banned by the NCAA for betting on games and manipulating their performances to cash in on prop bets. Fresno State's Mikal Robinson and Jalen Weaver and San Jose State's Stephen Vasquez shared betting information and placed bets on games they were playing. Text messages helped trace the players' schemes. For instance, last season, Robinson texted Vasquez to tell him which prop bets he would purposely miss the number. Say there was a prop bet that he would get more or less than 4 rebounds. He would simply tell him, I'm not going to get 4 rebounds tonight. Robinson, Vasquez, and a third individual placed $2,200 on various underlines for Robinson's play, and they won about $16,000. Now, as I have reported many times in the last year, many states are going to eliminate individual player prop bets, if only in college games. Others might argue that the best solution, the only solution, is simply to make gambling illegal again. However, this is not the solution. Just because you ban gambling will not stop gambling. It never has. It's as good as if you pass legislation stating that the sun could not rise. Trust me, the sun still will rise. This show is called Gambling Mad. Why is it called Gambling Mad? It only exists because people always will gamble. Plus, I've got nothing else on my schedule for Tuesday afternoons, so I figured I might as well tape a podcast. And remember, with Gambling Mad, you always lose less. Time for NFL picks. Almost time for NFL picks. First, let me give myself a rare victory lap for hitting my only Major League Baseball season bet. Had the Cleveland Guardians over 82.5 wins. It was touch and go all season, but then in late September, they ran off 10 straight wins. The Guardians finishing over 82.5 wins. And so that gives me a mythical $100 profit. We make $100 bets on all these props. Earlier this year, I missed on 4 prop bets with the NBA and March Madness. If I had hit on any one of those 4, because those were giving me odds, I'd be up for the year. But I missed all of those 4. I hit the Guardians, which just pays $100 on a $100 bet. So I am 1-4 on the prop bet so far this year for minus $300. It's a nice living if you can make it off of minus $300 every few months. Anyway, let's go to the NFL bets, where, speaking of losing, my season record so far is 4-6. Doesn't look good. I am not going to panic. It's a long season, and every year I just seem to somehow finish just above 500. But when you not only when you miss on picks, when you pick against somebody's favorite team, they'll start hating on you. Over the years, I have received, first in the old days, snail mail, and now email, and of course, posts on X from people telling me that I don't know what I'm talking about. People telling me that I am so bad, and this is the most popular email I get. Dozens and dozens and dozens over the years. I am so bad at this that they just pick against me and they can, be in the black and run to the bank. That's an interesting claim, because every single year that I have done this, I finished the season at just about 500, at 50%. You figure out what they're talking about then. So once in a while, I have responded to these people to tell them, hey, what I just told you, it's interesting that you're profiting on betting against me. Every year I'm 50% right, 50% wrong. So that means you got to be 50% wrong or right. And over the years, 2 different times, 2 different individuals have responded to me by telling me, no. What you don't understand is I know which games in which you're going to be wrong. End of conversation. End of discussion. End of any brain activity. Anyway, let's get to the picks for this week. Commanders at Falcons. The Commanders won last week 41-24. The Falcons lost 30-0. So how is Washington only a 2.5-point favorite? It's Chinatown, Jake. Or in this case, it's the NFL, Roger. Now, the thing is that things change. Teams bounce. Now, the Falcons will have to bounce from the outhouse to the penthouse to beat the Commanders. The Falcons could not score a single point against the Carolina Panthers. The Falcons could not score against the Panthers. That would be like Ryan Gosling not scoring in a college bar. I believe Michael Penix and Bijan Robinson will have big games. Well, at least one of them better have a big game. I will take the Falcons and the points. Browns at Lions. The Browns beat the Packers last week 13-10. Sure, the Browns have a good defense. So does the United States of America. And when's the last time we won a war? Anyhow, the Browns should have a big letdown after that big upset. And actually, the Lions also might have a letdown after their Monday night dismantling of the Baltimore Ravens. But the difference here is Joe Flacco versus Jared Goff. I hate to pick on Flacco again, but he is 57 years old, eats Metamucil for breakfast, and has the mobility of a fire hydrant. He also has the worst passer rating of any quarterback in the NFL this season, 65.9. Your quarterback's passer rating should not be lower than the game time temperature. I'll take the Lions here at home as a big favorite, minus 8.5. Time for the calendar game of the week. Jaguars at 49ers. I have no idea how the 49ers are 3-0. They are missing Brock Purdy and Nick Bosa. Matt Jones stepped in for Purdy, but now he has a knee injury. If Purdy or Jones can't start Sunday, then they would turn to third-string quarterback Curtis Rourke. Oh, my goodness. Excuse me. He is also hurt, which leaves them with practice team quarterback Adrian Martinez. When you are on the practice squad, all you do is practice. You never suit up for games. You hold a clipboard at best. Martinez, though, was league MVP in the United Football League last year. However, in all honesty, I believe the UFL consists mostly of geek squatters that were laid off by Best Buy. One other note: to save money, instead of flying 2,400 miles from Jacksonville to the Bay Area, the Jaguars are driving, and that is more than 2,700 miles door to door. Road rage alone will wear them out. I am reluctantly taking the 49ers as a 4-point home favorite. Jets at Dolphins. So Tua is 6-0 in his career against the Jets. Big deal. I could be 6-0 against the Jets without wearing a chin strap or a jock strap. The Dolphins' defense stinks, giving up at least 31 points in every game this season. It's not a good game, and I am contractually obligated, I am told, to make a prediction on this dog of a contest. Okay, I predict that no one in my neighborhood will watch Monday Night Football for this one because it's starting at 4:15 Pacific time. That's my happy hour. We do have to make a pick. Both teams are 0-3. It is a miscarriage of justice that both will not be 0-4. As a rule, when winless teams meet, I always take the points. Plus, I believe justice will be partly served by the game ending in a tie. So they both will be 0-3-1. If it ends in a tie, you got to take the underdog. So I am taking the Jets and 2.5 points in Miami. Bengals at Broncos. The Broncos are the much better team. The Broncos defense alone can carry them to victory any given week. The Bengals have terrible ownership. They could turn 7-11s into 11-7s. The Bengals' Jake Browning might be the only quarterback starting this weekend worse than Joe Flacco. The Bengals are coming off the worst loss in their franchise history, 48-10 against Minnesota. The game is in Denver, and the Broncos are in a foul-ass mood, losing their last 2 games, each on the game's last play. So everything points to a Denver rout. Naturally, I will take another bad team, and I will take the points. Bengals plus 7.5. Let me speak for a moment to my good friends in the UK. My entire adult life, I have known various individuals residing in Great Britain. They've always liked to thumb their noses and point their fingers at us Americans, particularly on 2 fronts: our gun culture and our race problems. I have no defense, absolutely no defense for our gun culture. As far as the race problems go, yes, they have always existed here. But as I often told my UK friends during the 20th century, it's really easier to have no race problems when you have only one race, which was the case for a long time in the UK. And not only was it white, it was pasty white. If I'm in the UK, I'm like a tanning god, okay, compared to those pasty white Brits. So it was all whites forever in the UK. Which brings us, though, to the past couple of generations and the current moment in England where we see these anti-Islam and anti-immigrant sentiments reaching feverish highs. Now, how did that happen? Well, for decades, for centuries, the British never had any problem casting themselves across the globe, colonizing land after land under the UK flag, thousands of miles away from Buckingham Palace. As the saying went, the sun never sets on the British Empire. Well, it finally set. And in recent years, many of those colonized decided to make their way to London and environs. No, your Brits said. No. So it was okay for the UK to abuse its military and financial might for generations, controlling the lives of those halfway around the world. But when that world comes to you, it's trouble in paradise. And of course, a lot of those immigrants are people of color. Oops. Sounds like we got a race problem, Nigel. Speaking of the United Kingdom, let us now turn to Charlie Kirk. In the wake of the Charlie Kirk assassination, freedom of speech has become an issue. We will not delve into Jimmy Kimmel here. For what it's worth, what Brandon Carr's FCC attempted was a broad overreach of its regulatory powers. But that aside, just for the record, I've never been a Jimmy Kimmel fan and would have no problem if the marketplace, not the government, if the marketplace just swept them off the airwaves. I want to talk, though, about a different area of free speech that's come up. In the United Kingdom over the last year, they started policing social media in an effort to eliminate a lot of the toxic hate. You actually could be imprisoned for a tweet. So the Elon Musk crowd, naturally and understandably, scoffed at this and celebrated Elon for saving free speech in America in particular via X. Elon Musk was the savior. X was the new media. You get to say whatever you want to say. Okay, then explain this to me. In the wake of the Charlie Kirk assassination, those who lambasted the UK social media crackdown decided to orchestrate an electronic lynch mob against anyone who posted inappropriately or offensively in regard to the slain conservative leader. Lunatics like Laura Loomer decided to go after these social media miscreants, and she boldly declared more than once that she would get as many of them fired from their jobs as possible for their tweets. She was not the only one. There's even like an online clearinghouse that lists all the posting perpetrators who somehow denigrated Charlie Kirk after his death. You can go online and see, oh, look, there's the name of somebody I wanted to hire. They said that, I'm not hiring them. Oh, there's the name of somebody in my neighborhood who said that, I'm not talking to them. Okay? It's very similar to the list of sex offenders you can look up in your neighborhood. And why exactly would these people be losing their jobs? For exercising their right to free speech. So I am flummoxed. X saved free speech. But now when the free speech doesn't suit the free speech absolutists, they want to run the bad folks up the flagpole. I guess the rules of the right and the righteous are somewhat selective.
At Miristar Federal Credit Union, we are on the rise for our members and the communities we serve. They inspire us to keep moving, to keep reaching for more, so we can help them achieve their financial goals. Their stories are our stories. Since 1950, our deep roots have inspired 75 years of community trust. Together, side by side, we're on the rise. County Federal is now Miristar Federal Credit Union for everyone who dreams of moving forward while giving back. Federally insured by NCUA Equal Housing Lender.
Time now for our thought of the day. Our thought for the day. So they're linking Tylenol to autism, but they won't link guns to mass shootings. Time now for our fact of the day. And the fact of the day involves the president and the HHS secretary, both of whom link Tylenol to autism. One guy eats at McDonald's every day, and the other guy has a brain worm. Let's take an updated look at the richest people in the world. At number 1, Elon Musk, who owns X. At number 2, Mark Zuckerberg, who owns Facebook and Instagram. At number 3, Jeff Bezos, who owns the Washington Post and Twitch. At number 4, Larry Ellison, who owns Paramount, which includes CBS and may soon include also CNN and TikTok. Do you notice a pattern here? All of the media, just about all of the media, is in the hands of 4 gentlemen. Gentlemen? No. Look at those 4 guys. What's that, a hat full of winners? Speaking of which, no pun intended, hats off to the fifth richest person in the world, Bernard Arnault, the fashion mogul who brings us Christian Dior and Louis Vuitton. Anyway, I gotta believe we are more threatened by oligarchs than communists. Rapper Trick Daddy. You know, if you told me when I was in college that one day I would be uttering the words rapper Trick Daddy into a camera 45 years later, I would have lost that bet. Rapper Trick Daddy ignited a social media firestorm with remarks he made recently on the Nene Leakes show. When asked about his dating life, Trick Daddy said he was not interested or attracted to women over 35. He said they were too emotional, had too many standards, and carried too much baggage from past relationships. Trick Daddy called women over the age of 35, quote unquote, damaged goods. Trick Daddy is 51 years old. My guess is he's going to have trouble going forward attracting any woman over or under 35 who hear his interview. In Trick Daddy's defense, I got to believe, a lot of women over 35 are too emotional and have too many standards and carry too much baggage from past relationships. On the other hand, most men over 35 are, pigs. Anyway, if I can speak from personal experience, I have lived with a woman over the age of 35 for a number of years who we like to call Tony. I love her very much. She is my current wife. And let me say this. If I ever told Tony she was damaged goods, I would be damaged goods very, 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 very quickly. But Tony is thoughtful enough that on my way out the door, she would give me a slice of carrot cake to remember her by. Before we wrap up, I'm going to say this one time and one time only. What the heck is the Fed? I'm speaking of the Federal Reserve. There's an old expression. Everybody talks about the weather, but nobody does anything about it. Well, everybody talks about the Fed, but nobody knows anything about it. Does anyone have any idea exactly what the Fed does? Does anyone understand how its decisions affect our lives? Does anyone have any knowledge of who exactly is on the Fed? No, no, and no. The Fed is America's central banking system, which means nothing to me. The Fed buys and sells government bonds to control the money supply, which means nothing to me. The Fed sets and adjusts interest rates, which means nothing to me. The Fed tries to balance inflation with unemployment, which means nothing to me. For all I care, they could use a Ouija board. The point is, none of us has a grip on this entire process, so all of us should stop talking about it. It just confounds every day. If smart people such as myself, I have an American Studies degree from the University of Maryland. If smart folks like me and Blue can't figure this stuff out, what chance do Scott Baio and Kid Rock have? That will do it for another edition of Gambling Mad with Norman Chad. Hope to see you again next time. And remember, if you're gonna roll the dice, make sure they're loaded. I heard a statistic that blew my mind the other day, Blue. 35 out of every 100 people on planet Earth live in India or China. 35 out of 100, India or China. So how come every time I go to the DMV branch in West Los Angeles, it's so crowded? It seems as if everybody not living in India or China has moved to LA. I don't want to discourage anyone from following their dreams, but we don't need any more people here in Los Angeles. Traffic is so bad it takes me 15 minutes just to pull out of my driveway. I came here in the 1990s, and actually, they didn't need more people moving into town even then. But nobody told me. If someone had mentioned it to me, I'd be in Bakersfield or Fresno now. Well, I'm going to mention it to everyone right now, loud and clear. Don't come to Los Angeles. Trust me, LA is just a series of exit ramps, nail salons, and mattress stores. Don't come to Los Angeles. Do not come to Los Angeles, because as Wolfgang Puck is my witness, the next time some Brad Pitt wannabe / part-time waiter screws up my rigatoni bolognese and sauteed spinach side order at my favorite Italian restaurant, I will go gambling mad. Okay, that's fine. What are you doing?
Gambling Mad with Norman Chad is written by Norman Chad and ghost-written by Norman Chad. Executive producers are John Scheinberg and Rick Barrio-Dill. Produced by Norman Chad and Rick Barrio-Dill. Our associate producers are Bree Coury and Asher Friedberg, and edited by Asher Friedberg with studio facilities at 360 Pod Studios, Beverly Hills.
Join us at the Northern California Renaissance Fair, weekends at Casa de Fruta, now through October 19th. Calling all woodland creatures, fairies, and toadstools this weekend as we celebrate cottagecore. Explore the artisans' marketplace filled with unique handcrafted wares. Enjoy delicious food, non-stop entertainment, and cheer on your favorite night at the Royal Joust. Kids 12 and under are free. Go to NorCalRenFair.com for tickets. Huzzah!